you being one of
Mhm.
my very first ones. And so I'm just so blessed to have you. And it's just been an amazing journey about teaching people how to coach the right way.
Mhm. I really appreciate that story, because I think so many people have gotten into their career in the exact same way, by accident, either stumbling upon it because that's what their parents maybe did, or because, like yourself, it was a strength and you're like, okay, I'm good at this, and so therefore, and I can make money at this, like therefore I should, without actually thinking about what we want. Just it's more of a stumbling into it.
Yeah.
So interesting how dramatically your career path changed
Yeah.
when you
Banker, speaker, like complete opposite ends of the spectrum, right?
yeah, absolutely, which is why your story is also really cool, because it is kind of a really big significant jump. I have a quick question. I'm curious, what do you think, because I know you left the bank, like what do you think how did you feel comfortable enough to leave the bank? Like what do you think allowed you to make that decision to actually completely transition your career and not kind of do both?
Yeah. I don't think I was ever comfortable leaving the bank. So I just want all of you to know that if you've been doing something for 15 years and now you're going to go do something completely different, it will not feel comfortable ever. And for me, that was the case. I was coaching a lot of Bob Proctor systems at the time, a few years back, and I was coaching overseas really because I needed to get money. I had made a promise to my wife that once I had a certain amount in the bank account, that I would leave the bank and I would start my coaching business. So I did all that I could. I would do contracts after work. I would do overseas work overnight. Like I would do a bunch of different things to be able to get cash, to be able to get money, to be able to leave the banking world. And so the time came. And so here's something else that you really need to understand is that if you want to do something different, you actually have to get into that frame of mind that you're going to do something different. If you never get into that frame of mind or you never envision something else, you'll always do what you've been conditioned to do.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it starts with vision. You've got to have a clear vision of where you're headed and what you want to accomplish. And so for me, I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be a trainer, a coach. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to have millions of dollars. Like these were some things that I wanted that I would never get in banking, ever. So I knew eventually I was going to have to leave. So there was one day I had envisioned it where I would turn my computer screen around and I would show my wife the balance in the bank account. And she would say, when are you quitting? Like I had envisioned this day every single day for many, many months. And finally the day had came. It was the day after Thanksgiving here in the United States. And I remember it. It was the day after Thanksgiving, 2016. I had moved my computer screen around and showed my wife the account balance. And she said the words, when are you quitting? It was like, this had played so much in my mind that now it was real. And I'm like, holy crap, I got to quit now. And I couldn't write the letter. I couldn't quit. And so for like weeks, I sat there and thought, it would just be really, really good if the bank were to just let me go. Like if the bank were just to eliminate my job, if they were to just fire me, like just let me go. Cause I couldn't find the courage to go and actually quit. I couldn't do it. It had been 15 years. My boss was amazing to me, incredible leader. And I couldn't figure it out. And so one day I mustered up enough courage to write the letter.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into my boss's office with the letter. At me and he said, Tony, is that your resignation letter? And I had this voice inside of me that said, put it away. Now, I didn't know if that voice was like fear or if it was intuition, but I felt, you know what, I can do it tomorrow. So I put the letter away and I said, no, I'll chat with you about this later. What's going on? What's up? And he said, Tony, I'm so glad because if that was your resignation letter, I couldn't give you severance. Today, I have to eliminate your job. What I had envisioned for weeks was now another reality that was happening. I'm like, how is this stuff happening? So not only did I leave the bank, I got severance for several months leaving the bank to really catapult me into my business. So to answer your question, how was it leaving the bank? It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And without actually having had my job eliminated, I don't know. I think I would have had enough courage. But I don't know. I don't know if I would have had enough courage to go give my resignation notice and say, okay, I'm done.
I have a feeling you would have eventually, but maybe not that day, but who
Yeah,
knows?
I think I would have, because my true calling
Just
was
knowing you
pulling
a bit
me.
more now. But I love that because it's interesting, Tony, because you enjoyed your job. It wasn't your purpose, right? Like I know
Hmm.
your vision and your purpose. It wasn't in alignment with that, but you enjoyed it. You enjoyed your boss. Um, some people really hate their job, hate their boss. They're not happy. It's easier to leave something you really dislike.
So
But you
Nicole,
like
I
it.
found that there's three types of people in this world. There are those that have jobs, and the people that have jobs, they go to a location every day to collect a paycheck and go home, but they hate it.
Mm-hmm.
They just hate it. It's just a job. And so if they got a different job, it wouldn't matter. Like they just go from job to job. And as long as the paycheck's coming in, they don't care what they're really doing. They just, the paycheck's coming in, but they hate what they do. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, most of the world, that's the category that people fall into is they have a job. Then I believe you graduate to having a career. And people that have a career, they actually love it. Like I loved my career. I really did as a banker. It was a phenomenal career. It paid me very well, like very well. I could have been independently wealthy for the rest of my life. And hey, so banking was a phenomenal career. However, there's a third level, and I only believe that about 3%, 3 to 1% of the population actually find the highest level of fulfillment, and that is when you find your calling.
Mm.
And it actually calls after you. That's why it's called a calling. It's something that is pulling you, and you don't know what it is. So when you're in your career and you're like, but there's something else, I don't know what it is, that's your calling trying to come out. And so people ask me all the time, Tony, would you ever go back to banking? My answer is no. I would never go back to banking. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't love banking. It doesn't mean that I don't love the people. It just means that I have found my calling in life, where before I just had a job and a career.
Mm-hmm. That's really, really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was a really powerful moment. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people. I'm curious, when you say calling, would you also call that your purpose? Is that the same thing, or you could use that interchangeably, or?
Yeah. To me, it's interchangeable. Like it's your life mission. It's why are you alive? Why were you born? What is your message that you're going to bring to the world?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, once I was woken up to my potential and who I could become, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, see, a lot of times we go into our career or our job with our strengths. And we say, well, this is what I'm really good at. And so I know that I can make a lot of money because I'm good at it. I believe that strengths is one of three things that you should be determining when you're finding your purpose or calling. That's just one of three. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that are good at what they do, but they still hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's other two things that need to be involved. And that is, what do you value in life?
Mm-hmm.
Money, mental energy, and what do you want to track in life? Because that's what you truly value. And then the third one, number three, is what do you desire? What's always on your mind? You can kind of never get it off your mind. It may be music, it may be sports, it may be speaking, it may be motivating, whatever it is, like what's always on your mind? Health, I don't know. But for a lot of people, it's very different. For me, once I had that positive psychology class, that moment, all I wanted to do was learn more. And from that day going forward, that's always on my mind, never leaves my mind, is how can I tap into more of my capacity and potential and help others do the same?
Mm-hmm.
And so those three are part of a purpose. I call them the three pillars to purpose. And for those that are coached through that, we help guide people through those three pillars into self-discovery of what do I want? What's my desires? What do I value? And what am I good at? And when you find those three things and you interweave them together, you
Mm-hmm.
find your calling. So here's my calling. I influence millions around the globe to wake up to their potential and capacity through my written and spoken word while keeping God and family first in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my calling in life. That's my mission in life. It guides every decision that I make.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. When I first, I think I had kind of experienced some of my purpose and calling like you did before I could define those three pillars. So I had experienced it, but I couldn't articulate it to help others do it until, like you described, and you kind of in that particular concept of the three pillars of purpose. When I went through that myself, that was this awakening of, oh, now I get why I wasn't able to be fulfilled in that other thing, because it didn't align with my values. As an example, that was a big aha moment for me. Was I wanted this, but it didn't align with my values, and therefore it wasn't aligned with my my calling or my purpose.
And here's what happens when people don't identify their values. And I saw this when I was working with a very influential man and his clients. We would always start off with, what do you want? And these people would get these huge goals, these huge dreams about what they wanted, but they never identified what they valued. And so they would go after the what, the dream, and they would destroy everything they value in the midst of going to their goal. So they would get their goal thinking that their goal would make them happy and fulfilled, later to find out that they had destroyed everything that made them happy and fulfilled in the meantime. And so it's important that you identify what do you value in life before you start creating visions and dreams about what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually love a quote that Oprah shares. She says, if you don't know your purpose in life, then it is your sole purpose to find it out, to figure it out. Until you know that, then, like you said, you could be working towards goals, but if it's not in alignment with your values and your purpose in general, then you might achieve things, but still be unfulfilled. So yeah, really powerful. This is really cool. I really hope that people are grasping the magnitude of this. So I'm going to change gears a little bit here. So I thank you for sharing all of that. That was really powerful for me to hear also. But I know there's another topic that you had mentioned, we just were chatting briefly about before we got started today, about this whole concept of mentors, coaches, and you'd mentioned a few, because you had mentioned several mentors that you've had on your journey to get to this point. But I do think that there is some confusion out there in the world at what is it? And there's a big, I think, an influx of coaches out there. Like I think there's an awakening of people realizing they can improve their lives and wanting to, and then people wanting to coach them to do that. But I'd love to just pick your brain a bit on this kind of difference between coaches, mentors. If there are other, you mentioned, we talked about life coaching, there's business
therapy,
coaches, therapists. So if you want to talk for a few minutes, perhaps.
This is on my mind. In fact, I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live today after this regarding this topic. So that's why it was kind of on my mind as you and I chatted before the interview today. So the first question that we have to ask, though, is, why do I need a coach? Like there's this idea in the world today of life coaches, and it's the industry is growing by leaps and bounds every day. This is craziness that every single day in the United States, just in the United States alone, $350 million is spent every day on like knowledge, self-knowledge, professional development, personal development. It's spent on knowledge, gaining more knowledge. $350 million a day. Tony Robbins shared that by 2025, that number will be upwards of $2 billion a day. $2 billion a day. So this is an industry that is definitely growing. It is definitely in its infancy right now. And because of that, there's no regulation. There's no one regulating, saying, hey, you can't say that and then not deliver. You can't do that and then not have something to back it up. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that will give you great promises of, I will make you a millionaire. We will get you your business that will be functioning by tomorrow. I mean, these outrageous comments that get people really emotional. And so they're like, okay, yeah, I'll give you my life savings, $20,000, in the hopes that you're going to help me build this. And then they realize that it never happens because this industry is not regulated. And there's no process, rhyme, or reason to why people do what they do. And so this is the reason why I created Elevated Worldwide a few years ago, is to put process and structure to coaching. Because I firmly believe that although you and I are different, Nicole, we change the exact same way. How you change a paradigm, how you change your lens is the same for you as it is for me. Now, it's very different because we're very unique, but the way to do it is the same. And so can it be duplicatable? So here's my rule of thumb. If it's not repeatable and duplicatable, it's not sustainable. If it's not repeatable and duplicatable, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to have sustained success, it's got to be repeatable and duplicatable. So if somebody comes up to you, so here's the question that you might ask, going up to a life coach saying, hey, can you life coach me? And they say, sure, I can. I'd be happy to coach you. Here's the next question that should come out of your mouth. What process do you use to coach people? Now, be really, really careful if the answer coming back at you is, well, it depends. It depends upon the person. Be very careful about that response because it doesn't depend. It's the same for every single person. Change and changing our brain is the same. It doesn't matter who you are. It's the same for every individual because we have the same neural pathways, the same development. We all walk the same. We all talk the same. Voice comes out the same. Now, it could be a little bit different for different people, but the process is the same. So number one is I focus on process and structure. So that's the first thing. Why? First of all, why do I need a coach? I think is a really, really important question. Why do I need a coach? Because I have so many blind spots that I can't see them. And I need somebody to help me identify my blind spots. I need somebody to hold me accountable. I need somebody to help me become more self-aware. Okay, so the art of coaching, I love Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a psychiatrist, he was a psychoanalyst, and he is really the godfather, founded analytical psychology today. And he shared that until you make the unconscious conscious,
Yes.
it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And there's a lot of unconscious people out in the world that they think that I'm just unlucky, I'm unlovable, I'm just poor, all of these different things because they don't know any better. And a coach will help them figure out that they're not poor, that they're not unlucky, and they're not unlovable, that they can be loved, they can be rich, and they can have an amazing life in the future. But until you make the unconscious conscious, that unconscious thought of I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm unlovable, I'm unfixable, it will control your life, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. This is just the fate of who I am. And so coaching is vital in the world today. Now, there's a difference. And so here's my last couple of minutes, and then if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. What's the difference then, Tony, between a coach and a therapist? Mm-hmm. Because a therapist, they make the unconscious conscious. So what's the difference between a therapist and a coach? Here's the difference. Therapy, all of us have trauma, by the way. All of us have trauma. Our trauma could be very large from when we were a child, or it could be very small, but all of us had traumatic experiences that control our behaviors today. Mm-hmm. So I do a little exercise if you're ever in any of my workshops where I'll hold up a marker and I'll say, I need somebody to come help me draw on the board. Now, no one knows that I'm going to give a prize. I'm going to give whoever comes up $1, $1. And but they got to draw on the board for me. Well, what's going on in the brain is I can't draw. I'm not a good drawer. I'm not creative. All of those things are holding people back from actually volunteering to come up and draw on the board. And the reason why is because of the unconscious thoughts that are controlling that individual based on who they were as a child. They had a traumatic experience that caused them to believe that they are no longer creative and no longer good enough to draw or color or do any of those things. So it controls their behaviors today. So a therapist is always going to go to the past and fix the trauma from the past. They're going to identify the trauma. They're going to fix the trauma, and so that we can release you into the future. But most therapists, there are some great therapists out there that will actually, they'll filter into coaching, which is all future based. See, therapy is all past-based. It's the trauma of the past. They want to get you to a certain point to be able to just exist and live, where coaching wants to get you to not just exist and live, but thrive. Mm-hmm. And that is where we're focused on what's your vision, and we're going to make that vision become a reality right now. Mm-hmm. And so coaching is about digging those answers out of you to help you get to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. So now what's the difference then between coaching and mentoring? Because there's a lot of people that will say this to you. Nicole, if you do what I tell you to do, I promise you, you're going to get the results that you seek. That is mentoring, not coaching. And again, there was a great mentor that I had that told me he was going to coach me. And he said, Tony, if you do everything I tell you to do, I promise you, you will win. But if you stop doing everything I tell you to do, I will no longer coach you. That is not coaching, that is mentoring. And he was a phenomenal mentor, but he sucks at coaching. Phenomenal mentor because he has created an amazing business model in the world today. He's a big influencer in the world today, but he is horrible at coaching because coaching is the art of asking people the right question to help them find their own answer. And the answers are there for you to get anything you want in life, but they're in you. They're not in me, they're in you. And it's my job as a coach to help dig them out of you so that you can go and achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. So there's the difference between coaching and mentoring and coaching and therapy. And the last thing that I would share is the one question you should be asking though. How do you know if you have a good coach? What's the process you're going to put me through? I know I shared that, but that's very vital. What's the process you're going to put me through? Because if it's not repeatable and duplicatable, it's not sustainable. And so you need to have structure to your coaching. So there you go. That's kind of what's been on my mind.
Well, thank you so much. I really, I think there's a lot of confusion around, I don't know if it's confusion, conscious confusion, or just unawareness between mentoring and coaching, for sure. I feel like those words are sometimes used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. So I really appreciate your description of it. And it's so powerful, the difference of, and they both have a purpose. Like I do agree that they both have a place, but the value of coaching is bringing it out of you. I love how you describe that. And I also love what you mentioned about having a process, and not just because you suggested a process, but because what you said was that people are all the same. They're different, but they're kind of the same. And you mentioned Tony Robbins just sharing a statistic, but it made me think of him for a second. And I know he shares that, having worked with millions of people around the world for so many years, people are all the same. They have the same basic human needs, is one aspect. And so we are the same. We're different. I don't want this to come across the wrong way. We're different, but we operate the same. And to your point, we change the same in how we change, how we think, feel, act, how we change those behaviors.
I think it's important because I always haven't believed that, because I've been taught that we're all different. But I've been at this for now over a decade and I've helped thousands of people through a process. And if people do the process, they all get the results that they want. If they don't do the process, they don't. And so for me, it's been duplicatable, and therefore it's sustainable. If people just engage in the process, they repeat it every day, they can duplicate it, and they get sustained results. If they don't, they don't. And so I can now confidently say that that you can have a process in coaching, because I've seen it function in hundreds and thousands of lives all across the world.
I really like the point on duplication, because if you're working with a coach on one area of life, and then you get that and it's improved and you've changed perhaps, but now an obstacle comes up in another area of life, or you realize that you want to change something else, but you don't necessarily, like, the value of having a process is that now you can take that learning and apply it to other areas of life. Now I want to just ask you a question though, because I think I know a little about the answer, but I could hear how this might sound confusing, because we're talking about as a mentor, telling, is more of a telling you what to do, and it might be valuable tips, but it's different from coaching. And then when you were explaining the process, that sounds a bit like I'm telling you what to do, because I'm telling you to do this process. So do you want to just maybe comment on that?
That's a phenomenal question. I don't tell people what to do to get to their dreams and goals. I tell them what to do to become more self-aware. Right. And so there's a few things that people can do every day to become more self-aware. Quieting your own mind and meditating is a big, big deal. And so I teach people how to meditate and what to do during meditation, but I don't teach them what they're going to get out of meditation, because that is the essence of getting your own answer. Is whatever comes out of meditation is what you want to be focused on. I also know this, that when I was, again, working with this great mentor with some of his clients, I would always start people with, what do you want? And I found about 85% of the population that I helped, they had no idea what they wanted. They couldn't even get to what they wanted. And the reason why I later found out through study and research is that they're stuck in a lens of not enough. They're stuck in a lens of lack. And when a brain is stuck in this idea that there's not enough in the world, it can't think of a bigger, more than enough dream. It just can't go there. And so there had to be something that flipped the brain from this idea that there's not enough to more than enough. And through all my research and science, I've found that it's a consistent practice of gratitude every day, and what I call the 3 levels of gratitude. So I teach people what to do and how to do it regarding gratitude and meditation and some of these things, but I don't dictate to them where it's going to lead them, what behaviors they need to be working on today to build their business. Like, you need to call 10 people. I don't tell people that. Like, whatever comes out, that's what you need to do next, but it's trust yourself. And when we have somebody, a mentor that says they're coaching us and they're just pounding at us, do this, do this, do this, and I have this impulse, I should do something different. Now I have that struggle of, do I listen to my mentor or do I listen to myself? But because this person has told me, listen to me or I won't coach you, I distrust myself.
Right.
And I trust my coach and I do what he tells me to do. And instead of just trusting this voice within me that's trying to come out. So to answer your question, yes, I tell people what to do. It's very simple. So here's my book, and I'll just kind of flip to a page here. This is what I think people are working on right now, but I have people write their vision down every day. They do 3 levels of gratitude. They listen to audios every day. They're reciting their vision out loud. Again, we're changing the neural pathways in the brain. They're doing success action items. They're having their accountability each day with a person. All of these things are the components to building really the life that you want. But none of it, I'm not dictating anybody like, do this to build your business. I'm telling, do this to get to the place in you that will help you build your business.
Yes. Oh, yes. I love it. To get the answers, to trust yourself, to change your mind, like you said, that lack to abundance. Like if you're in a abundant way of thinking, then when ideas come to you, you can trust them, and you might have increasing your confidence, your self-image, your belief in yourself, and then acting from that place, and taking actions from that place rather than forcing actions from a place of not enough, which wouldn't work likely anyways, right? So yeah. So that's really powerful. Oh, awesome. I feel like I have 100 more questions, but I think we can wrap it up. I do appreciate, because one of the last things I wanted to ask you today was, you just answered it, was what are like 1 or 2 things that people can do on a daily basis? You just said it, but if you don't mind repeating really quickly, that if they were to walk away from today and this is the only thing they ever heard from you or I, what would you want them to do? Actually? Yeah,
that's a great question. And well, I'm going to kind of go a little bit deeper than we did just a second ago, because I think that it is a little bit deeper than that. Mm-hmm. There are 4 things that separate the top 1% of the population that earn 99% of the wealth from the rest, from the other 99% that earn 1% of the wealth. Like there's 4 things that they have that the others don't. Number 1, they are guided by a vision, not by reality.
Yes.
That's number 1. And we can teach people on how to get vision and how to have vision for their lives. Number 2, they're constantly becoming more self-aware to fulfill that vision. They're raising their level of belief to match the vision. That's number 2. Number 3, then their behaviors, actions, and habits start to fall in line with their newfound belief. They start to wake up earlier. They start to do things differently in their day. They start to work in a different way. Because they're changing their habits, their actions, their disciplines. And then number 4, they start connecting with different people in their life. So here's a couple of things you can do. Number 1, do you have a vision for your life? Do you know where you're headed? Mm-hmm. Number 2, are you becoming self-aware to help that vision come alive? And 2 things you can do every day that are very simple is practice gratitude and meditate every single day. Number 3 is analyze your habits. Is this a downhill habit or an uphill habit? Is this taking me down or is this taking me up? Mm-hmm. And look at your habits and start to analyze, where are your habits? How disciplined are you? Do you finish things that you start, or do you start things and never finish them? That's all part of discipline. And then number 4, who's around me? Jim Rohn shared that we're the average of the 5 people we associate most with. And then Dr. McClellan out of Harvard said that those people are your reference group. and they'll determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life.
Ooh,
So
that's
do I
powerful.
have vision? Am I becoming self-aware? Am I analyzing my habits? Am I disciplined? And am I connecting with the right people? You start to focus on those 4 things every day and your whole life will change.
Hmm. That's really powerful. I feel like 1 and 2 will, I'm curious what your thoughts are, but 1 and 2, knowing your vision and working on yourself and building your self-image, your belief, and all those things, self-awareness, will help you to do number 3, because
Mhm.
you will now be in a different position to
And you
change
will attract a different number 4.
actions, and you will attract different types of people when you know where you're going, you are clear about
Yeah,
yourself,
one
you're
leads to
changing
the
your
other.
actions. They kind of are like layered.
Mhm.
Almost 1 and 2 I can see being tied really closely, but I can kind of see this layering. I never saw that
And
before
that
until.
And that, Nicole, is why it's duplicatable. See, if everyone has a vision, they'll start to create belief around that vision. They'll start to change their behaviors and attitudes to match the beliefs around that. And then they'll start attracting new people to their life. It's
Mm-hmm.
duplicatable. It's repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it's teachable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can put it into a process. How's your vision? What are you doing to increase your level of belief? How are we changing your actions and habits and disciplines? And then who are you connecting with?
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can put process and structure and procedure around it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really powerful. I love it. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, Tony. This has been very enlightening. And I feel like there's so much that was talked about today that there's a lot of different nuggets that people will walk away with, including myself. I'm very grateful for this time with you today. One last question. How can people get a hold of you, or they want to learn a bit more about you? Or
Yeah. So by the time people see this little video, we're launching actually my brand. I've been kind of hiding behind the Elevated Worldwide brand, but now I'm building my brand, which is Tony Child. So you can go to tonychild.com. And there you can find writing a blog. I'm doing a bunch of different things on there. You can find different programs that we're doing. And really you can find out contact me though if you're like, hey, either A, I want to be coached, or B, I want to certify a coach, because we do certify coaches in our process that is duplicatable, repeatable, and sustainable.
Absolutely. I am one of them, as we said at the beginning. So I'm so grateful for that process, because not only has it changed my own life, but the ability to help someone else. When you see someone else go through that process and change their life, that's one of the most rewarding things, more than yourself. But having those tools, having that process, is what has allowed me, at least, to really feel the confidence and the trust. And I know it works. I know it works. I don't rely exclusively on me. I'm relying on this process that's so much bigger. So anyways,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And I'm really excited to see the new website and see that tonychild.com. Can't wait to see that, and your blog, all that information. I'm sure there will be a ton of value in there as well. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And
Yes.
we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Take care.